Boston has a long history of preserving its past and giving it new purpose. That also describes the mission of the nonprofit Historic Boston, Inc., whose projects go from downtown locations to other places in the neighborhoods. To bring us up to date about some of the most recent projects, especially in Roxbury, is the organization's executive director, Kathy Kottaridis. Thank you very much for being with us, Kathy.
Thank you.
Kathy, is a sort of signal a little bit, much of what you do at Historic Boston, Inc. is you find sources of basically income to preserve properties and revitalize them in some way. With the COVID-19 pandemic and all the economic fallout, I imagine that must be getting more difficult for you now.
Yes, in ways that we haven't struggled with before. I think we are always worried about the economics of any real estate project, right? But we've always had the advantage of stable revenue from our flagship property, the Old Corner Bookstore at downtown Boston. But as everyone knows, most retail locations have been closed in the last 6 months, or at least severely reduced in their time and therefore their own income. So we have really been a little bit more strapped as an organization, because both for the property itself in which they're located, but also whatever they might be throwing off to help us carry out our nonprofit mission out in the neighborhoods of the city. So yeah, these are different times, and we're adapting and monitoring very closely and being as good a landlord as we can possibly be, because we recognize that this is well beyond the control of most businesses. So yeah, these are challenges, and I think we're holding on and navigating and monitoring closely, but time will tell.
On the other hand, during a pandemic, at least one of your projects can take on added significance. I'm thinking of the farmhouse in Mattapan that you brought back to life. Tell us what's happening there.
So that is the Fowler Epstein farm, which is on Norfolk Ave in Mattapan. And that's the home of the Urban Farming Institute, which both trains farmers for urban farming, but also produces food. They've been a little hampered this year because they always had a farm stand at least once a week. And I'm sure they've been cut back a little bit because they also supply restaurants and others who've also experienced some setbacks. But that said, it's been a very vibrant place all summer long. It's an outdoor space where they can host folks in at appropriate distances for classes, for just community engagement. They have been bundling up food that are being grown on the site, different types of produce at intervals, spring and summer, that delivering in a reasonable radius around the farm. So it's not like their growing objectives have changed. It's really their means of delivering, and probably their audience has been modified a little. So you can go on their website, make an order, and either get it delivered or pick it up on a Friday.
Well, one other project of yours is coming in for some changes, and this involves Historic Firehouse in Roxbury, and it's a building. I used to see it from the Orange Line and puzzle over it, but I guess this is what, the oldest surviving firehouse that's in what is now the city of Boston?
That's correct. It was built for the town of Roxbury. This is the Eustis Street Firehouse from 1859. It was built for fire equipment that would have been pulled by men through the city of Boston, or through the town of Roxbury to a fire, and was quickly adapted within 10 years to be the kind of apparatus pulled by horses. So it's gone through many iterations. It tells many wonderful stories, but I suspect what you used to see from the Orange Line was a very decrepit, precarious building that had really deteriorated considerably. It was empty for more than 50 years before HBI was designated to develop it by the city of Boston. And we redeveloped it in 2011 for 2 office suites. It's a 2-story building. And we ourselves relocated there. And that was really largely because we were not really doing projects in downtown Boston all that much anymore. And this really put us closer to the neighborhoods we serve. And it was really transformational, both for our organization by being there, but it also helped to make the project happen. over the last 9 years, we've been on the second floor. Timothy Smith Network has been on the first floor. The building was turned back into being a beautiful mid-19th century Italianate little temple. And yet what we've discovered is that, Nubian Square is really seeing a surge of interest, both by homegrown businesses and needs, but also others from the outside who are wondering if there's opportunity there for, relocating offices and such. So we've been partnering, not to switch gears too much, but they're related. We've been partnering with the Wellness Collaborative, a relatively new health organization, holistic health organization that's looking to help work on the issues of disparity in healthcare. And we've been working on a proposal to help them build their organization to locate it in another building across the way, the Owen Non-Factory, which is a building that we've been interested in developing and have a proposal in for. And it will be a long time before anyone's designated or is able to redevelop that building for them to move into. So in the interim, they're looking for a place to incubate their business. And we scratched our heads trying to help them find that. And the best we came up with was our own office. So we are making way, moving to the old corner bookstore, which is our home, our flagship property in downtown Boston. And Timothy Smith continues in the building, and we're leaving in order to accommodate the Wellness Collaborative's startup of their own health and wellness business or operation there. They are a nonprofit.
Now, from what I've read about the Wellness Collaborative, even if it doesn't involve a walk-in treatment, they are very much concerned with health disparities, aren't they?
Yes, very much so. And that is through, as you suggest, some treatment, meaning some clinical services where there would be walk-in customers to a certain extent. But they also train peer groups in appropriate approaches to health and wellness, other things that are more policy-oriented, insurance and other types of things. So their goal is really to get at a real grassroots level of engagement with people and with service providers who are targeting that group as well, to build the kind of knowledge and direct service as possible. And over time to build that up so that they actually create almost a one-stop shop for both clinical and wellness and educational programming. So when they go over, we hope, to the Owen Non-Factory, there will be medical service providers there, in addition to yoga classes and healthy food preparation classes, as well as the training courses that can be offered to peer groups.
What does this preservation do for the rest of the Nubian Square area? Because as you know, there are concerns there about getting businesses in, and not just businesses that come with gentrification, but businesses that serve the people who are there in the neighborhood right now. Does the preservation help that in some way?
I'd like to think that it does. I think in this instance, we really felt strongly that, while we love being in Nubian Square, and for a lot of different reasons, this service, for example, of health and wellness is one that is absolutely central to the conversations we hear all the time around us in Nubian Square and in Roxbury, but in other communities. And that we felt very strongly that if we do anything well with a local building and its sort of transformation and all of that, the Eustis Street Firehouse, we should really make this available to local homegrown organizations. And I think that's what we're doing here. Now, that's our deliberate effort. But I think that many of these properties are beloved by the neighborhoods. There's advocacy around them, historic buildings, and a real effort to keep them as not just vessels in which things happen, but also, to make sure that they have some meaning once they're developed, that their restoration actually, is local in its flavor, but also local in its service.
And finally, I know you've got a lot of other projects going on, including the African Orthodox Church in Roxbury as well. If people want to get some more details about what's happening with those as they move along, is there some place they can find that?
Definitely. Always go to our website because everything integrates there, all our social media and just basic information on our project work. But if you go there, you can also register for our monthly newsletter. And we try very hard in our monthly newsletter to make sure that folks are kept up to speed on what's current in each one of our properties, background information on them too, so that people understand their histories. And these are not just in Roxbury, although we have a high concentration there, but in other parts of the city as well. So that's the place to go. Get on our mailing list and you'll hear from us once a month.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us.
Great. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Kottaridis from Historic Boston, Inc.